Let's talk about Damage Control. So, Damage Control was a faction that was introduced to us after the Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch match at last year's SummerSlam, where we saw Bayley make her grand return after tearing her ACL a year prior. We also saw Dakota Kai return after getting released a couple months prior, and we saw Io Shirai finally get her main roster call-up. And this literally happened right after Vince McMahon retired, so we all knew that we officially entered the Triple H era, and he's going to keep on cooking. But the thing is, he hasn't cooked at all with Damage Control. Damage Control's booking has been fucking terrible. So, it all started off with Damage Control losing to Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez in the women's tag title tournament, and they just won it back a week later. Like, what was the point of that? And then, we had Bayley versus Bianca Belair at Extreme Rules, where we all thought Bayley was gonna win, right? Nope. Bianca Belair retains. Oh, but Bayley gets a rematch at Crown Jewel for the title, so that's when Bayley's gonna win, right? Nope. Bianca Belair retains again. We also saw Damage Control lose their women's tag titles to Asuka and Alexa Bliss on a random Raw, just to win the titles back not even a week later at Crown Jewel. Like, what was the point of them losing them? Just have them defend the titles. Come on. What is the point of that? And then, a bunch of other stupid shit happened. I mean, they lost that Survivor Series War Games, which is honestly fine to me because I think it made more sense for them to lose to start the Becky Lynch and Bayley feud, but their booking has been fucking terrible. So, it's led to the inevitable, which is the split up of Damage Control. And we've seen hints of that over the last few weeks. Even last Raw, we saw Damage Control get upset with Bayley. So, let's fantasy book it. So first things first, we all know that Io Sky is getting a Raw Women's title shot against Bianca Belair, but we don't know if it's going to be on a Raw or at Backlash. So, let's have it at Backlash, because why not? So for the build of this match, we're going to make it focused more about Damage Control, and we're going to have Dakota seem very excited about Io finally getting her opportunity, while Bayley seems a little bit jealous of Io getting the spotlight instead of herself. At this point, it should feel like Io and Dakota are transitioning into tweeners, kind of. We're trying to make Bayley seem like the bad person in this whole situation. So, before we go to Backlash, we have the WWE Draft, because it was just confirmed yesterday that the WWE Draft is going to start April 28th. So that is going to be completely awesome. I'm super excited for it. But for this, let's have Damage Control still get drafted to Raw as a faction. They don't get split up. Because for this story to work, we kind of need Damage Control to all be on the same brand. So, we're at Backlash now. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, Raw Women's Championship. They're going to have an absolute banger match, and let's actually have Io win to become the new Raw Women's Champion. Io and Dakota are going to celebrate like absolute crazy people, while Bayley is just standing there, doesn't really seem excited, doesn't really seem happy. She's just standing there with a straight face, not really doing anything, and she leaves the ring while Dakota and Io are celebrating. So, we all know what's about to happen next. So, it's the Raw after Backlash. We get a segment where Io Sky is going to celebrate her Raw Women's Championship victory with Dakota and Bayley. But this is basically where Damage Control is going to split up. So during this promo, it seems as if Bayley is annoyed and unhappy with the situation. Io mentions how she earned her pathway to the title all by herself, which then Bayley decides to chime in and express her feelings finally. She tells Io and Dakota that they wouldn't be where they were if it wasn't for her. She completely goes off on them, mentioning how Io would still be waiting for her contract to run up with WWE and how Dakota would still be unemployed from after getting released from the WWE. Bayley is going absolutely crazy. She starts even going off on the fans. She's just going absolutely berserk right now. And I don't know exactly what she would say, but just make it obvious that Bayley is the heel of this situation, because I'm not sure with the reaction how Io and Dakota would, how the crowd would react to Io and Dakota, because Io beating Bianca Belair, the hottest babyface women's wrestler in the company, and if we're trying to make Io and Dakota babyfaces, it's going to be weird. So obviously we're going to make it seem like Bayley is the bad person in this situation. But anyways, Io doesn't waste her time and she attacks Bayley. She grabs a mic after that saying damage control is over, and both Io and Dakota leave. This officially makes Io and Dakota Kai both baby faces moving forward, and it's official, damage control is done. This leads to a feud between Io Sky and Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship, with them having a match at Night of the Champions for the title. So, at first I said it was going to be at King of the Ring, but just a few days ago, it went from being King of the Ring to Night of the Champions. So, yeah. Io retains against Bayley in a very good match, but don't worry about, Dakota Kai getting lost in the shuffle, because I've noticed that a lot of people tend to forget about Dakota Kai when we talk about damage control split up. So we're gonna make it seem like the split up, everybody from damage control is gonna shine, So let's fast forward to Money in the Bank in London, July. I think it's in July, where we're going to have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, where Dakota Kai and Bayley are both going to be in the match. So that's going to be one of the storylines entering in the match, because since the damage control split up, we haven't necessarily seen Bayley and Dakota in the same match. So this is really the first time where they get to lay their hands on each other and beat the living shit out of each other, So this is basically going to be the first time where we finally see Dakota Kai and Bayley in the same ring. And let's actually have Dakota Kai become Mrs. Money in the Bank, I think this would be a good opportunity for her, and, to finally reach the high card, I guess. So, yeah. It's the Raw after Money in the Bank. Dakota cuts a promo talking about her Money in the Bank victory. It's a babyface promo because, we're trying to make her a babyface. Where Bayley comes out, talks about how she wouldn't be Mrs. Money in the Bank if it wasn't for her, yada, yada, yada. Same old stuff from the damage control splitting promo, which leads to a match at either at the September pay-per-view or on just in a very important Raw, where we see Dakota Kai versus Bayley. And let's raise the stakes a little bit. Let's make it for the Money in the Bank briefcase. We're obviously going to have Dakota win, but sometimes you got to add those things just to make the match even more important than it already is. Now let's move on to Survivor Series War Games. I'm not going to do everything from Extreme Rules to there, because I'm a dumbass and I don't know what exactly is going to happen. So let's just move to Survivor Series War Games, where let's have a Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series, because this is the only time where I think people from Raw and people from SmackDown are actually going to have the chance to wrestle each other. So let's just do that. Team Raw versus Team SmackDown Women's War Games match. Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Bayley are all going to be on Team Raw. They lose because Bayley decides to be a jerk, and she starts to beat the shit out of Io. She decides to beat the shit out of Dakota, and it's one of the main factors that costs them to lose the match. Now, let's move on to WrestleMania. So for WrestleMania, we're going to have Io Sky versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship, which is going to be a guaranteed banger match. And in regards to Bayley and Dakota, we're going to have a Women's Fatal 5-Way for the new Women's Mid-Card title. We're going to have that. We're going to make that replace the Women's Tag titles. And we're going to have the 5-Way between Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Dakota Kai, Bayley, and let's just have Liv Morgan. So it's going to be a good match. Everybody hits their finishers, and it leads to Dakota Kai getting pinned. But don't worry, let's move on to the Io Sky versus Asuka match, where they have an absolute banger match. It's very good. Asuka wins. Io Sky's title run finally ends. Asuka wins. And then right when the match ends, Dakota Kai cashes in her Money in the Bank contract and becomes the new Raw Women's Champion. So that's it. That's how damage control should split up. Let me know how I did. Let me know if you liked this whole scenario. Let me know if you didn't like it. This was actually my very first video, so I would gladly appreciate it if you told me, ways to improve, But, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, We trying to get the YouTube algorithm shit going on. I don't know how it works, but that could be my excuse to tell you guys to subscribe. But yeah, that is how damage control is going to split up. I'll talk to you guys later. See you guys in the next video.